visiting team. I'm an Associate Public Health Practitioner. Behaviour Management. Firstly, this is a time that your toddlers are starting to find out the social cues, they're starting to realise their own likes and dislikes, and they're starting to test the boundaries. The main thing you can do as a parent is decide on your family rules and be consistent. I think it's about managing our expectations during the day. Even as an adult, you have to deal with disappointments, you have to deal with things going wrong, you may be hungry, you may be bored, and your toddler is the same. They've just got to learn some strategies to manage those feelings. It's about you being consistent. If your child does have a tantrum, it's very good to just let them have a safe space and let them get the tantrum out. If you try and go in too soon, your child will have not had time to deal with those feelings, and you may be just adding fuel to the fire. If you think of your toddler as a can of fizzy-cola, if you were to shake that and then pull the ring pull, that would go up in the air, and at no point would you be trying to dampen that down. You would sit back calmly, let the bubbles subside, and then go in. So a good strategy with your toddler at the point of tantrum is just to sit calmly, just to say, "Mummy's here, when you're ready we can have a cuddle." That is not the time to try and tell them how they should be feeling. Some strategies we can do as a parent is look at the words we use, because your toddler now is listening for those key information words, and generally a 2-year-old is listening for the 2 key information carrying words. So we need to get in the pattern of telling our toddler the words we do want, because if you think they're listening for those key words and your child is jumping on the sofa, if you keep saying, "Don't jump, stop jumping, no more jumping, I've told you 10 times no jumping," the consistent word your child hears all that time is the word jump or jumping. Instead, step back and think, what do I want my child to do? In that instance, you'll be saying, "Sit down, sit, sit," and you can demonstrate. Try and give them time to process. Your toddler needs 16 times longer to process what you've said and to respond. So don't assume that if your toddler doesn't respond straight away that they haven't heard you or understood you. Just give them time to react and try and get in the pattern of saying those positive keywords. Along those lines, it's always good to give lots and lots of praise for the things your child does correct. Try and avoid saying the generic "good girl, good boy," because that doesn't really give your toddler an understanding of what they did correct. If you can say, "Oh, good girl, you listened," or "good boy, that was helpful," then that extends what you mean by being good. It also gives your toddler an opportunity to learn about themselves. If we hear all the time, "I'm helpful, I'm kind, I'm thoughtful," that becomes a little bit of our understanding about what we believe about ourselves. Quite often, as an adult, we are aware of the time. So quite often what happens is your little one is playing, we look at the clock and we think, "Oh, in 5 minutes we will need to go." That is the time to just give your child a gentle reminder that in 5 minutes it's shoes on and we're going to go out. Because quite often what we tend to do without realising is we think they're playing nicely, right, time's up, shoes on, let's go. And of course your toddler is very focused on what they were doing. So just give warning. Sometimes some children find this really challenging, so maybe introduce a visual reminder, a visual timer, or one of the sound timers that you can get that you wind up and it makes a noise. Then you can simply go and say, "In 5 minutes, darling, shoes on, out we go." So you keep the word simple and put the visual timer down, and then say, "When the time is done, remember, shoes on," and then we go. And it just lets your toddler get in the mindset of understanding what's coming next. Another challenging time parents can find is obviously when you're out and about with your toddler. So give some thought into how that experience might be to your child. Shopping is very boring if it's not for yourself and you're not the one going and choosing the shops where you go to. So have a think ahead. A good idea is to have a little Ziploc bag or an old makeup bag with some fidget toys in, or some little wind-up toys that your child is only given when you're out and about shopping, so it's of interest to them, or a little notebook or a little pencil so that they can make their own little drawings. As they get a little bit older, get them involved in the family shop. You'll be amazed how many children recognise logos, so that's early reading, and they can be really helpful. So if you can say, "Oh, can you pass mummy," or "Can you pass daddy this?" then you're helping with their recognition. And also you can add some maths in there. Can you pass me 4 apples or 3 oranges? And the child will be involved in the experience and it will be far more entertaining. It's also a good strategy to maybe have the fidget toys when it comes to the checkout bit. There's a reason those shops put all those lovely little things right at that bit, because they know that that's when you're really stressed. So try and plan ahead and have a little thought of how it might be if you were a 2-year-old doing that shopping as well. Lastly, we're coming to sharing. As an adult, we feel very pressured to make our children share because it's a social skill. However, in the English language, sharing has different meanings. If you're both sitting on the sofa, we are sharing the sofa. We're both happy, we've both got a seat. If I had a box and I filled it with some food and I put it down and said, let's share Anne's food, and I open the lid, you'd all take your food, you'd all keep your food and eat it, and I would be left with an empty box. If I filled that same box with my toys and said, let's share Anne's toys, I've said the same words, let's share Anne's. I've opened the same box. You understand the social expectation is that you have a turn with my toy and then you're expected to put it back. So that's kind of the same with your children. They've got to learn that social skill. So it's very important we explain that it's turn taking. And we can help our children with that as well, because if your child is waiting for a turn, it teaches them a good strategy to say, it's my turn first, you've got to wait. Sometimes without realising as an adult, here's my child playing lovely with the dinosaur. Here's my friend's child who comes round, and this child obviously wants a turn with the dinosaur. I feel very socially pressured as an adult to say, oh, my child's got to be good at sharing. So what I do is if I say, come on, share, and take it to give to that child, the word association that I've taught my child is that if I say the share word, I can just take it. And quite often then your children learn that pattern, and then when they're out socially or they're in a nursery situation, they seem to misguidedly think, if I say share, I can take it. Or I might say, she's not sharing, share. But actually, it's about this child learning to wait a turn. And again, giving power to the first child to say, stop, it's my turn. When my turn's finished, it's your turn. So sometimes have a little think, because as an adult, we do not share everything ourselves. Things that are ours are very precious to us, and we have anxiety if somebody's using it not in the way we would. So for friends coming over, have a think. If your child has a toy they absolutely adore, because this is the age children may be getting really attached to toys, put it safely away and say that toy will come out when your friend's gone home, but the other toys are what we take turns with.
Hi, I'm Vanessa from Hertfordshire Family Centre, and I work alongside the health visiting team. Now we're going to talk about dental health. By now your child should be registered with a dentist. Your family centre can support you in finding a local one. If you have a look at the link on the letter, there is some information about keeping your teeth healthy. By now, if you get your child a toothbrush and an age-appropriate toothpaste, the right amount to use generally is for a child over 3, about a pea-sized amount. But for a child under 3, it is just a smear. And try and encourage your child not to rinse their mouth with water afterwards, because we really want to keep the fluoride on their teeth so it carries on working. Obviously you need to be careful with the snacks you're giving your children because of the dental decay that it can cause. Fruit and veg is obviously a really healthy snack for your children, but just be aware that there is a lot of hidden sugars, especially when it's changed from its original format, sort of made into smoothies or dried. So just be aware it's something that you need to be careful of, and give your children's teeth an extra brush. The best snacks to avoid tooth decay are the bread-based snacks like breadsticks and rice cakes, and also little cubes of cheese are really good to avoid tooth decay.
Hello, I'm Linda Cadperson. I'm an Associate Public Health Practitioner that works alongside the health visitors. Toilet training. How do we know when our child is ready to toilet train? It's generally between the age of 2 and 3 is when it's somewhere in between that. Their nappies will go from being very dry to very wet in a long spell. Also, they may start to hide to do a poo or tell you that they need to go to the toilet. From day 1, it is recommended that you put underwear on your children from the minute they get up till the minute they go to bed. So even if you're going out for a walk in the buggy or the car seat, put a towel on it so that they get the sensation that they feel wet. Do not ask your children too frequently, do they need the toilet? Do you need to wee? Do you need to wee? Because it gets bored, they get fed up with it. Roughly the right sort of amount of time that they need to be asked is every hour and a half. That's more than adequate enough. Just a quick note that actually they do a poo generally 30 minutes after we've eaten or after exercise, and that's a good time to put them on the toilet. A good little tip is, even from now, even if your children aren't quite ready for toilet training, is that you take them to the bathroom and start changing them in the bathroom, because you can start the process of washing their hands, putting their clothes up easily and tipping a poo down the toilet so it stops the anxiety. When toilet training, you can use a potty like this, or you can go for a toilet seat that you put on top of the toilet with a step, because that will make sure that their feet are flat, because when we do a poo we need to be able to put our feet flat and lean forward to be able to push to do that. Another little tip is to have some bathroom toys, so that we only use them in the bathroom and that gives them something to do. So they've like some little plastic toys that you can wash, bubbles to blow, help with constipation, and they can't hold in a poo if they're blowing bubbles. When you're toilet training your children, they do not need to sit on the potty for hours. If they're going to do a wee, they're going to do it straight away, so they only ever need to be on it for a couple of minutes. The nursery are able to support us with toilet training, but it's the parents' responsibility to actually start the process and encourage the children to do so. If your children suffer from constipation, you need to speak to the GP or your health visitor for some advice. Increase their water uptake, and look at the ERIC website. That's really a good site for either toilet training or for constipation.
Sleep. Okay. Now is the time your toddler may decide that they need to miss out their daytime naps. It's very individual, be guided by your child. Some children decide that they can go without sleep, and then by the end of the day that's when you're going to get lots of challenging behaviour, because they can become overtired. Maybe that your child can miss the sleep one day, but the next day really needs to catch up on a nap. Even if your little one refuses to sleep during the day, it's really good to still have that quiet period in the day. Maybe after lunch, where you just have some calm time, you sit and read a book, so your child has opportunity to just rest their body. Night terrors. Okay, night terrors usually happen in the early part of the night when your child is in a deep, deep sleep. Usually it would happen before midnight or just after midnight. Can be very frightening for you as a parent, because night terrors, your child presents with screaming, they could be thrashing around, and you go in. Some children are even out of bed walking around, sleepwalking. However, they are still in a deep part of their sleep, and you might notice, oh, they actually look asleep. Even though it's very frightening to see, try not to rush in, try and calmly walk in, guide your child back to bed if they need to, and just sit with them, because at that point they're not making sense, they don't remember this dream, and if you just sit with them, the dream should end as quickly as it started, and then they should resettle. What you may find is some children get into the pattern of this happens at the same time every night. If that happens, and it happens for more than 3 or 4 consecutive nights, a good strategy is just to go in 15 minutes earlier than the time they would wake, and just gently rouse them. Doesn't mean wake them, but just, give them a little turnover, snuggle them back down, and it just resets that pattern of their sleep. Do that for a week, and hopefully the child will have gone past that stage. Nightmares. Okay, as said earlier, your child at bedtime is when they're processing things that happened in the days, stories that might have been fun in the daytime, at night time can be quite scary. If your child has a nightmare, they present by crying. You might go in, they are talking about the dream, the talking may not make sense, they might be saying key words, they might say monster, things like this, or under the bed. At that point, try and avoid saying those words back to your child, because they will latch onto that and make the word association. You need to go in as calm as you can and be saying, it's okay, mummy's here, daddy's here, shh, you're safe. If need be, you cuddle them and you rock them, whatever it takes to soothe your child. Remember, they've woken up in the middle of a dream. They cannot differentiate if that's real or if that's a dream at this point. So they just need that reassurance from yourself. If their stress levels are raised, be mindful that it could take 20 minutes for that to come back down. Their cortisol levels are up and their heart might be racing, and they are genuinely afraid at that point. So just be reassuring, be calm. Once they've calmed, be prepared that it could take another 10 minutes to resettle, because again, they may really need your support with this. The next day, when your child tries to recall the nightmare, they may still go on about monsters, etc. Try and avoid again getting involved in that conversation, and remind them that I was there, you were safe, and you can then say it was a bad dream, because your child at this point is trying to disassociate what was real and what was their imagination.
I'm now going to talk about what your child's diet should look like. Firstly, and it's the biggest thing we often have, is mums say to us that my child's very fussy or doesn't eat very much. Have a look at their portion size. Their portion size is often much bigger than they actually need to eat. A good guideline for portion size is your hands. This is my meat portion. This is my rice, pasta, carbohydrate portion and vegetables. So I should have 2 of this size vegetable on my plate. It's not very much. Their child's portion is their hand size, and that's for the rest of their life. The portion size for snacks. So for a banana is an adult portion. Children only need a third to a half a banana portion, or a whole apple again is an adult portion. They only need a portion size of an apple. If children eat a large breakfast or a large lunch, that will also impact on their dinner at night because their tummy, they've had all the calories they need earlier in the day, so when it comes to dinner time there is no room left in their tummy to eat more food. Children at this age now only need 1 cup of milk a day. They don't need any more. If you can get rid of their bottles as well, now that's a really good time to do so. If your child refuses to eat their dinner, this can be quite traumatic and quite upsetting for you when you think you've done them a nice dinner and they don't eat it. And if you go to cook them something else instead, what happens is they then learn that if they don't eat their dinner that mummy will cook them something else. Very difficult. Try not to cook them a second choice. Always good to offer your children some choices because that helps with temper tantrums and angry if they don't think they're in control of it. So if you're making lunch, say do you want a ham sandwich or a cheese sandwich, do you want a banana or an apple, then they feel part of it and in control.
By now your child should be getting all the nutrients they need from their varied diet, but there's one that they need to get from the sunlight, which is vitamin D. These are vitamins A, C and D for your child and they're available from your local family centre. You just need to ensure that you are registered. There's also vitamins available for pregnant women and breastfeeding women.
Immunisations. Your child's next immunisation, if they hadn't all done up until they were 1, their next immunisation will be at 3.5. Some of your children will be offered the nasal spray for the flu in the winter season.
Safety. Okay, we need to make sure all of our cleaning products, our medications, things like matches, are safely locked away, and particularly now a concern is these tiny little button batteries that we find in watches, we find them in your car key fobs, they're in all the toys that children have that make music, even in reading books that make music, and your children are going to be exploring now. They've got the dexterity to get into places before they couldn't have got into. And if your child does ever swallow one of these little batteries, this is the damage it can be doing to their insides. So you would need to get them to A&E as soon as possible. Also be mindful that you can protect the home, but people coming into your home may have medication or such button batteries in their handbags, in their coat pockets. You know, little children are interested in this. As ladies, we put our bags on the floor and little fingers can do those zips now and get into those pockets. You know, there may be a coat put on the back of a chair and again little fingers will delve inside pockets. So just be really mindful that you may make the home secure, but have a look when people come into the home what things they may have in their possession.
Ensure your child is in an age-appropriate car seat, and for the up-to-date information we recommend that you look on the government website because it does change quite often, so just make sure you're fully up-to-date before buying a new car seat. Make sure that you don't buy a second-hand car seat because you never know if it's been in an accident and it's not worth taking the risk.
Water safety is another big thing. Please don't leave your children in the bath or paddling pools or on the beach by themselves. They can drown very, very quickly. The other thing to be careful of is your blind cords. They can strangle themselves very easily. Make sure they've got a safety chain on them or that you tie them right up. Another good website to look at is CAPS. If you look at this, they have lots of safety information.
Thanks for watching the video today. We hope you found some bits useful. If you want any further information, your health visiting team or family centre can be contacted through our website or through the number 0300 123 7572. Thank you.